We welcome Scott Irwin from the University of Illinois, Urbana. Great to have you here, Professor.
Glad to be here.
Why is this corn inflation different from other commodity inflations we've seen before?
Well, because it's mainly a demand-driven phenomenon because of the tremendous growth in the use of corn for fuel ethanol, and we've also had less than stellar production in the last year.
Let's look at chart 4. We've seen this chart before. It's United Nations Food and Agriculture Index adjusted for inflation. Professor, by this measure, we've gone through the normal time of the 90s, the very inexpensive food prices of the last decade. We've even gone through inflation adjusted the spike of 2008. And the title here is, it's exogenous, I say. That's what the monetary economists say. What does a food guy like you say? Is food exogenous this time around?
In the sense of the impacts of monetary policy, clearly there's been some probably impacts of the monetary policy spiking up commodity prices, but I think that it's a minor player.
It's a minor player, but then within linking ethanol into this, have we screwed up our policy so much that we may get a persistency of high prices, or can we get ourselves out of this as we're trying to get, say, ourselves out of the fiscal deficit?
Excellent question. We certainly can. The historical record is for U.S. and worldwide agriculture is that acreage response and technology improvements will eventually catch up and overtake the increase in demand, but it does take some time.
Well, let's bring up corn if we could. We just made this chart. It smells a little, the ink's a little dry on it. Corn knee-high by the 4th of July. How's the corn crop this year? When you talk to the guys actually measuring, the men and women measuring Iowa or Nebraska, how is the corn crop as we're on April 20?
Well, right now, a lot of concern because we are in the midst of the prime planting period here in the U.S. Midwest for corn, and it's raining, and in fact in the upper part of the Corn Belt it's getting a little snow, so that we're way behind our normal planting progress. We can recover from that, but we need the weather to turn around fairly quickly in order to do that. So we're still, though, very early in the process.
$7.56 a bushel. How big is a bushel, Professor?
Corn that weighs 56 pounds, and it's a bushel is probably about the size most people would be 2 5-gallon buckets.
2 5-gallon buckets. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm a city slicker. Professor, when you look at corn, the last time you and I talked, you said $10 a bushel, which on that chart, bring that corn chart up again. Victor, get over here and work harder. $7.76 is the top of the chart. So you're suggesting we could easily go off the chart?
Again, I believe that would take some poor growing conditions this summer. U.S. average trend yields are projected in the range of 158 to 160 bushels an acre, and if we get a normal crop, we're not going to likely see $10 corn. Right. But if we have anything that threatens that level of production, I think we will easily spike up towards $10 corn.
You do great work on the finance and choices. Bring up chart 7 if you would, Rex. This is an ugly chart, folks. I apologize for this, Professor. It's just the relationship of wheat to soybeans. And the answer is right now wheat's doing better. Wheat's the numerator, so the line down over on the right side of the chart, wheat's doing a little better. But how do farmers make a decision on wheat and soybeans and corn? Walk us through that.
Well, again, it depends somewhat on what part of the Midwest where you farm. In the upper part of the Midwest, say central Iowa, central Illinois north, it's pretty much a decision between corn and soybeans. And basically it comes down to the ratio of those prices. So traditionally, if the price of soybeans is more than 2.5 times the price of corn, then that would be an incentive to plant soybeans. And if it's less than 2.5 to 1, there would be an economic incentive to plant more corn. And we've clearly in an environment right now that the economics favor planting more corn than soybeans for those farmers. It gets more complicated as you move south of, say, central Illinois, central Iowa, because there's more choices. There you'll see that farmers can choose to plant corn, soybeans, or wheat, or they can do something called double cropping, where they will plant soybeans late after they harvest their winter wheat and get two crops in 1 year if the economics favor that choice. And in fact, you go further south, then there's competition with cotton and a bit from rice. So it gets more complicated.
That's fantastic. That's exactly why we want to have you on. Professor Irwin and Sanders talking about index funds, financialization, that's his word, folks, and commodity futures markets. Professor Irwin, are the speculators in here this time? I don't feel it like I felt it in '08. Do I have that right?
I believe that you do. If there was a case to be made for a speculative bubble impact, particularly in the crude oil markets, it was better in 2008 than it is now. If there was ever a reason to have risk premiums into crude oil markets for potential supply disruptions in the future, it would be now.
Okay, let's leave it there. Professor, thank you so much. Scott Irwin with the University of Illinois Urbana. I thought that was brilliant about the geography down from the Dakotas on down through Iowa, where the choice set gets bigger, including cotton. We're going to do a lot more on this, just commodities, and particularly how it's different from 2008.